Welcome to Books I Make My Husband Read, a self-described hilarious and heartfelt podcast where I, Kristy, the devoted book lover, curate an unexpected reading list for my husband, John.
And that's me. In each episode, we dive into lively discussions, humorous debates, and unexpected insights on all the books Kristy just has to make me read.
We're here to explore everything from your book club favorites to quirky hidden gems, challenging our perspectives and inviting you to join in on the fun.
So, settle in, grab your favorite beverage, and get ready for another literary adventure.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 7 of Books I Make My Husband Read. I'm your host, Kristy.
And I'm the second host. I'm John. I'm the one that Kristy makes read all of these books.
Second host?
Second host, as opposed to co-host.
I mean, you are the co-host.
Host number 2. Second host.
Well, here we are, second host, talking about our 7th and final book and film combo this season.
Yes. This week we're discussing the book you've been waiting for all season. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Both the book and, of course, the new film that's out with Ryan Gosling.
Yes. I said last episode that I feel like Black Widow. All I've been trying to do is get to this moment. So now we have collected all the Infinity Stones, and we're ready to talk about this book.
Okay.
And save the world. What a great metaphor for this book.
True.
Save the universe. So why did I pick this book for John? Well, to be quite honest, I really wanted to read this book. So I had been waiting, knowing this film was going to be made. And then if you've been following along this season, you know that I had this idea to do books that have film adaptations. And so every book we've read this season has had a film made. And I just thought this would be the perfect spot for it. I am always reminded when I read a science fiction book how much I love science fiction. I just don't know what to read. And so I don't read as much of it as I think I would really like to, because typically I very much enjoy it. So I'm here for a book about space. I'm here for a book about things that seem impossible. I'm here for a complicated problem. And I just thought that would be a story that you would enjoy too.
Oh, and I did. This was definitely worth the wait and the timing and the build up to this book. And unfortunately, or fortunately for me, because I can take a break from reading for a little bit, this will be our last book of the season.
Oh.
We'll still have a recap episode in 2 weeks, covering all the things that we talked about this season, all the books and movies and whatnot. But yes, this will be the last book. So.
Yeah, so we will have a season recap following this episode, but then we will take a break, and then we will come back with season 5 and 7 more books for John to read late this summer.
7. Yikes.
7.
So you want to get into that spoiler-free book summary?
No, I want you to tell people how they can follow us.
Oh, they know how to follow us. They can go to Instagram. They can go to TikTok. They can find us on YouTube. All the different ways on our website, of course, that they can keep up with us and our schedule and what books we have covered and what books will eventually come out next season.
All right, are you ready for that spoiler-free book summary now?
I was ready 30 seconds ago. But sure, let's do it.
You're so rude. Ryland Grace wakes up alone on a spaceship with no memory of who he is, how he got there, or why his 2 crewmates are dead beside him. As his memories slowly return, he realizes he's on a desperate, last-chance mission to save Earth from extinction-level threat. The problem? He's millions of miles from home, the clock is ticking, and he's the only one left to figure it out.
As Grace pieces together the science behind the crisis, the story unfolds both his present-day problem-solving and the events that led to this mission in the first place. What begins as a survival story quickly becomes a puzzle filled with scientific discoveries, unexpected challenges, and moments of humor that lighten the high-stakes tension.
Blending science fiction, mystery, and heart, Project Hail Mary is a story about ingenuity, resilience, and what happens when one ordinary person is asked to solve an impossible problem and discovers he might not be as alone as he first thought.
All right,
Warning!
this is the moment of the episode where we will be voyaging off into the great unknown called Spoiler Land. So grab some astrophage, attach it to your wagon, and zoom on out of here.
Astrophage that's firing up a wagon?
Better be some strong wheels.
Yeah, they're about to melt right off that thing.
Good times.
All right, so tell me what you thought about this book.
Oh, man. It was... I think I really enjoy
It was good. That's the
science
end.
fiction as well. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I think this might be the fastest that I've read a book all season. It just kept me engaged. I loved the science. I loved the humor. I loved the characters and the dynamics around all the different characters. I thought that how it all sort of spliced together, and I know we'll get into more of this in detail, but how it unfolded, the present and past, and how that blended together. And I mean, yeah, it was an emotional read, and I think it was also like a good feel kind of book, which could use a little bit more of, I think. So all, yeah, just
Is there
5
stuff going on
stars.
right now?
I mean, it's just business as usual in the United States today. So yeah, it was fabulous. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. 5 stars.
I love this book as well. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't know. Did you say love? I think you said I really like this book, so maybe you're
Sure.
not quite there yet with it. Maybe you haven't reached that point. You're still sussing it out.
Oh my gosh.
I love the book. It gave me a book hangover, and what I mean by that for me is that it's just one of those books that I kept thinking about after reading it. Like, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still thinking about how Grace and Rocky are doing on
Arid.
Thank you. And I love the characters. I love the science that there's a lot of science and math, which I have a question about and we'll discuss in this book, which I think the book is wildly popular, but there are some negative reviews about it. And I do wonder if that has to do with it because there is a lot of pages spent talking about math problems and science problems. And I think that's probably some people are like, whatever, their eyes glaze over, which is fine. But I just really loved it. I enjoyed learning, like, I don't know, say learning, but hearing about the science behind and like the thought process behind that, and then falling in love with these characters and the story itself, and realizing that it's not about a story that's the journey to save Earth. It is another type of story. And I just thought it was like really beautifully written. I had not read anything else by Andy Weir. I will be reading The Martian now, which he also wrote. I also have not seen that movie, but I'll probably watch that afterward too. But I'm really excited for that. And I'm excited to get into some of these discussion questions.
Indeed.
Every time you say indeed, I think of that Indeed commercial. Indeed, you do. All right, Project Hail Mary opens with Ryland Grace waking up alone with no memory of who he is or why he's there. Did you find yourself invested in Grace as a main character right away, or did that develop over time?
I was definitely invested very early in this book, though I would say the first few pages I was a little disoriented, which I think might be intentional because it's probably how he felt waking up as well. I mean, how can you not feel for a guy who wakes up, doesn't know where he is, doesn't know what his name is? You got a robot asking him what 2 + 2 is. He's got tubes coming out of every orifice of his body and patches all over. Like there was definitely instant, like, what is happening? What is going on? And you're figuring out along with him. I thought that was just a really crafty way to sort of like tell the story and introduce us to this character in this way. So yeah, from the get-go, I was engaged with with Ryland.
Yeah. I would say same. Like, I felt immediately invested, but I think I also, now that you say it or naming it, felt the disorientation of like what is going on. I think, namely because it's not how the story went in my head, because you hear or you like read what it's about, and I don't know, it just drops you into a different part of the story than I thought we would be dropped into. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I feel like he's introduced to us as not some kind of space hero. He is introduced to us in a way he doesn't seem like ultra competent. He's
Mhm.
confused, he's scared, he's panicking. I mean, that felt very relatable. I mean, if I woke up in space with two dead bodies next to me, I would not be very cool about that.
Yeah. And then to learn that, like, not only are you in space, but you're not even close to your own galaxy or
Yeah,
solar
you're not
system or whatever.
at the moon,
Yeah.
which is obviously very far away, as we're learning very recently with Artemis too. But yeah, you're not even in your own galaxy. And then as his memories start coming back and he realizes like he's just a regular guy who talks about his muscles a lot, even though he doesn't really remember having them. He's a teacher. It just made him seem even like more relatable and human. And like, he's not the hero you're expecting to be in space to, save the earth, so to speak.
Yeah. 100% agree.
So, one of the things that stands out in the book is how approachable the science feels, which I kind of already talked about a little bit. But did you find yourself engaged by the scientific problem solving, or did it feel overwhelming to you?
I think I was more engaged than overwhelmed. I did find myself pausing it at times or rewinding it at times because I wanted to understand, or like make sure I didn't miss something, or I was like, oh, is this going to be important later? But
Mm,
I never felt that it was spoken to in such a way where I couldn't at least grasp the concept or what was happening or what the problem he was trying to solve. I didn't necessarily know how to or have to understand how he was solving it, through the quotients and formulas and whatever other quotients isn't a word, I don't think. But I was like, oh, I understand how he got there. Oh, okay. I understand like why he needed
you
to
were
do that in
following the
order to understand
breadcrumbs.
this. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed that piece of the story. I also feel like it gave him, as he was figuring those problems out, it almost gave him credibility to help me believe that he could do what
Do
he
it.
needed to do.
Yeah.
And so
That's a great point.
that it wasn't just like blind luck or, all of a sudden he knew how to fly a spaceship or something. Like as he was rebuilding those memories through this math and science, it was like, okay, it's very plausible that he could like survive and do this on his own.
Yeah. Real quick, I should have said this, I guess, with the first question in talking about him being relatable, but I cackled when he has no memories waking up, the computer who's, asked him 2 plus 2 and then asks him what his name was. And he's already had all these thoughts in his head. And he says, I speak English. I think in imperial terms. I'm white. Is my name John? He's like, is it John?
Yes,
And I'm like, basic white dude name,
it's
John.
basic white dude. That is called deductive reasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
But back to this question, I agree with how you feel and how you felt while you were reading it. It has a lot of math and science, as we've already talked about. I mean, math equations, physics, biology, other sciences I probably can't even name. But I think that what made the book truly brilliant is that Andy Weir does a great job of explaining these concepts in a way that allows you to follow the logic, just like you were saying, without needing to grasp every detail. You just know that it's bad, bad, bad.
Yeah.
And you don't need to understand the science on a deep level. I mean, there were plenty of times where I was like listening and following his reasoning. And then I was like, oh, that's not good. And
Right.
so it didn't feel intimidating. It almost felt like I was there problem solving, even though there's no way I could do those, math equations. But I felt like I was able to draw some of the same conclusions that, Grace is drawing as he's, moving through this journey and like learning what's going on and like why he's there.
Yeah, totally felt the same way.
The book balances high stake tension with humor. Did the humor impact the pacing and tone of the story for you?
The humor in this book was spot on for me, and this is definitely not a comedy book or anything like that. But what I think the humor did was it was delivered through a part of his personality, like it was just who he was
Yeah.
and how he engaged with both humans and later on with Rocky. That yeah, it helped lighten the severity in some of the moments or whatever, but it just made, again, it was another trait that made him relatable, likable, feel real, feel like he wasn't just like this stuffy scientist or
Yeah.
this rigid astronaut or military person or whatever it might be. Like it was
He
it
wasn't
was
Yao.
right, he wasn't, yeah. So I love the humor. Like many of us use humor as a defense mechanism of when
Yeah.
something's stressful or unknown or scary or whatever, and that 100% came through in the book. So
Yeah, I think the humor is probably one of our like my favorite part of the book and how it just brings the story together. I mean, you're in a situation where the stakes are incredibly high. Humanity is facing extinction, but Grace is able to find like humor in those moments. And also like we're learning about all those things while he's regaining his memories. And there's a lot of humor in that. I mean, he wakes up naked and he's grabs, like a bed sheet and he calls it his toga,
oh
and
yeah.
he just, like, talks about tucking stuff in his toga, and, like, there's just, like, all these, like, really cute moments, and, R Grace's inner dialogue and, like, his commentary, it felt like that moved the story forward, like, his excitement as he's making these discoveries, like, it breaks up the tension of how high stakes things are, and I think that maybe without it, the story would have felt really heavy. And even like thinking about it now, like, all that science stuff would have probably felt very different because as Rylan is explaining it to us, you can hear his excitement and he's like, doing the math and equations. And again, his memory's still fuzzy. So he's like, I don't even know how I know this. I just like know that I know it. So I think that would have even made like the science and math a little duller in the story if there wasn't that injected humor in there as well.
Yeah, it was great. It was just the right amount, and it didn't take away from the seriousness or severity of what the mission that he was on. It just helped pull us along with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the story is told with a dual timeline, which we've read before. We even read this season. And I remember on one of the books, you made a comment that as you were reading, you're like, no, no, I want to go back to the other timeline. Like, I don't care about this one. So I'm just wondering if Grace's present mission and his returning memories, like, did you enjoy how that story unfolded, or did you find yourself enjoying one part of the story more than the other?
I think what's unique about this book in the dual timeline is it doesn't feel, to me, it didn't feel like it was two storylines that we were waiting to sort of like merge and then move forward. It was us experiencing his return of memories. And so it didn't necessarily feel like a past timeline to get us to the current time.
Mm,
It was more of an avenue or a mechanism to bring us along, and like as he was remembering things or as he was remembering things, I don't know what other way to say it,
yeah.
we were getting that as well, and it was through this mechanism of a dual timeline. But I enjoyed both. I enjoyed learning more about each of the other people that were part of this mission that got him to space in the first place. And Strat, I thought, was awesome in her own like weird unique way. So for me, it worked. Anyway, what about you? What did you think of the timelines and the kind of back and forth?
I felt like it unfolded like a puzzle, which not surprisingly, I love puzzles, so I loved it. I feel like at the beginning you're thinking as you're learning about the mission and why he's there, you're thinking, "Wow, this is a person who volunteered for a one-way space ticket." And then you start learning like, "Okay, he's not part of the original crew." So something had to happen for him to go on this mission. So I just feel like Andy Weir does a really great job of building that tension and giving you like a little nibble of what the next piece of the story is going to be, but not the whole thing, so that you can, I guess, be along for the space ride as it's unfolding. But yeah, I think it really worked. It was done really well. And while I love parts of like the current timeline, I also just really enjoyed the characters that were in the other one as well.
Yeah. Moving on.
All right, the communication between Grace and Rocky is a big part of the book. What did you think about how their relationship developed despite the language and biological barriers?
I think this ties back to the science question as well, and how we were brought along on Grace's rediscovery of what he was able to do and how smart he actually was with everything. Because it made, when he met Rocky, it made it feel plausible and realistic that like he could come up with a
Have the
way,
tools.
have the
Yeah.
tools and come up with a way to create a voice and like build this shared language between the two of them. But I also, when I was reading, I was like, holy shit, that would be so hard.
Hard.
Not the technical piece, but just like, how do you even start that? Like,
Yeah.
he's very basic, like one,
One.
and
Yep.
then, that sound. And you have to assume that
That's universal.
that's universal, and Rocky would understand, like, here's my sound for what that is. So it was a really interesting uncovering of that shared language, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that was just very clever and plausible, in this world of science fiction that we're reading. And it was a way to show how two completely different species and communication styles could come together in an understanding, and then also discover that they're actually not that
Hmm.
different. And they talk about it in the book, where they're talking about how are we so like evolutionary close or similar,
Right.
despite their worlds are so far apart and their different ecosystems. And so I thought that was like a really interesting little nugget in the book too, a little sidebar story of just like, how are they the same? And then they talk about the
Yeah.
science behind it and stuff. But
Yep.
um,
And the same
anyway,
with the astrophage too. Like it had the same evolutionary markers or whatever it is.
yeah, right, right.
Cells. I did have some similar thoughts to you that, wow, it would be really difficult for them, to communicate. Are they, even like gestures and like things that are very common to us as humans, like those aren't necessarily universal with other
Yeah,
life forms. So I had, I think, a little bit, I don't want to say skepticism, like, okay, is this probable? Could this happen? But I kept reminding myself, like, Rocky and Grace are a lot smarter than your average person, or a lot smarter than most of the people like on our planet. So
sure.
it stands to reason that they're working off a different level of intelligence and would be able to compute those things and figure out those things faster than like a normal person would. So I did take that throughout the story, but either way, it would be incredibly different, or excuse me, incredibly difficult to do that. But like you were saying, it was the we're more alike than we realize was, I think, the theme through them building their friendship and what they were there for. And uh, yeah, I didn't expect myself to get emotionally attached to an alien made of rocks, but here we are.
Here we are. Amaze, amaze, amaze.
Fist my bump.
Still wrong.
There's there are several moments when things seem solved only for a new problem to emerge. Did the constant problem solving keep you engaged, or did it feel like too much?
Mm, good question. It definitely kept me engaged because it felt very realistic.
Yeah.
You're in space, everything is unpredictable, and so
Unknown.
unknown. And yeah, to me that was like a great progression to the story. I never at one point did I feel like, oh my god, another problem surfaced. Like, get over it or move the
Yeah.
story along or anything like that. I never felt that. It always felt very intentional, very likely to happen. And yeah, it just felt real. In a sci-fi world, it felt real.
Yeah.
that would happen. So,
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, like, specifically, there were several moments, both, like, in the present timeline while they're on the spaceship and Grace is thinking about it, and then the past time where someone like Strat would be like, "Well, a lot of things could still go wrong." So, the fact that a lot of things did go wrong, it felt really genuine to the story, and the fact that a lot of things did go wrong just for me felt not just like genuine, but as I said, like these are parts unknown. So, of course, things are going to go wrong because we cannot prepare for what's going to happen in space. Like, we don't travel in space. No one has ever been that far. So, if it would have been too smooth sailing, then it definitely would have felt for me too fantastical that, like, okay, this is probably not how things would have gone. Like, even when both Rocky and Grace get injured, I mean, and they have like the burns on them and they're what Rocky ends up kind of fighting for his life,
mm,
and it just added this layer of complexity, like, oh yeah, what would you do and how would you figure it out? But back to what we were saying earlier, like Grace is set up as this character who is an expert like on these things, so it really makes it feel believable that he would be able to figure these things out as the story goes along.
yeah.
So the reveal about how Grace ended up on the mission adds complexity to his character. Did that moment change how you viewed him as a protagonist?
Not really, but I think it helped me understand his decision at the end and why he chose the direction that he chose. Not only just because I don't think he knows what version of Earth would be left when he got back and what would he be returning to, but just that like he's almost rediscovered himself in a way. Or yeah, for me, I don't know that it changed my point of view as him as a protagonist, but it just, like I said, helped me understand why he chose the direction at the end. But what about
Yeah.
you?
Oh, I think it absolutely made changed how viewed him, but I don't think it made me value him any less. I felt really bad for him
Mm,
when you learn that. I think that he doesn't initially volunteer, and I think that makes him honestly much more human than probably I viewed him in the beginning of the book. Like, he's not fearless. He's scared. He's hesitant. And then for me, like, that feels like the correct reaction to being launched into space and trying to save humanity when you're not an astronaut. Like, yeah, I'd be freaking the fuck out too. Like, no, I
right.
don't want this. Like, but I think for me, and we've talked about this offline, that that's what makes his eventual growth that you already know. So you already have that, but that's what makes it so satisfying because he does not start as a hero. He becomes one. And
Mm,
so that journey becomes more meaningful. And I just really feel like that is what this story is about.
yeah. Yep. I agree 100%. It's about his journey, not necessarily it's not necessarily about the mission to save Earth. It's
Right.
about this journey of this character.
Yeah. So, one more question before we transition to talking specifically about the film, but the book explores themes of cooperation and survival across species. How did Grace and Rocky working together impact the overall message of the story?
I think it was the overall message of the
Yeah.
story. I think that they're two such different, not just different cultures, but like different species,
Yeah.
different languages entirely, and each finding their own way to come closer together through curiosity and interest as opposed to fear or resentment or anything else. And so, yeah, I mean, alongside his own personal journey, I think the two of them and their friendship and their shared language and their realization that they're really not that different, personality wise or evolutionary or whatever it might be. And so it was just really fascinating.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's the emotional heart of the story itself, as you're saying. And the idea that two completely different species, different biologies, different communication styles, different environments, like they can still figure out how to work together. And it was heartwarming. It was honestly a little humbling that humans needed an alien to demonstrate effective teamwork, but here we are.
Here we are. Come on down, Rocky. We could use you right now.
No shit. Yep. All right. So now we're going to talk about the film. So if you have not seen it yet and you don't want spoilers, here is another opportunity to take the exit on the right to the next galaxy. So the book relies heavily on inner monologue and scientific problem solving. How do you think the film translated Grace's thought process to screen?
So when we left the theater, you actually had a great response to this. And when I read the question, I'm like, oh, I don't want to. I could steal her answer, or I could just push it back over to you and give you credit for the answer that you had, because it was pretty solid. So
Thank you. Thank you for not taking my answer.
Yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So yes, this was one of the biggest questions I had going into the movie, because in the book, Grace spends so much time in his head thinking about these problems. So I had heard or had read somewhere that Ryan Gosling spends a lot of time on screen by himself. So I was thinking, like, is this going to be Tom Hanks in Castaway situation? Like, is it not going to be a lot of dialogue? But I could see him just like maybe problem solving out loud and like talking to himself, and maybe doing like something a mad scientist would do, which would probably have been accurate given like the stakes of the situation. But whoever made the decision to have the video diaries, genius. Like, we talked about some other mechanisms for internal dialogue or first person narration, and this is probably, I think, the best of the season and of the book to films that we reviewed. I thought, I mean, having them go, like the diaries, like go back with the Beatles, like I just thought it was great. A plus plus. Plus plus plus.
I agree. It was, and it didn't feel, I think it didn't feel forced either. Like, it felt like a very real scenario that he would do or capture. He also talked to the shuttle AI machine robot that he called Mary in some parts of the movie, as another sort of mechanism of him like problem solving out loud and that sort of thing. But yeah, the video diaries were just stellar, and they were comical, and like in the movie when they had like Rocky in them, and he was giving like a dialogue part too.
Who are you talking to, Grace?
Yeah. Can you hear this right now? Yes, yeah. I can hear this right now. It was probably one of the best mechanisms and fitting of the situation and the story itself. Yeah. So it was pretty awesome.
Good decision. A huge part of the book's charm is the humor in Grace's narration. How did you feel that played out on film?
Oh my God, they could not have cast anyone better than Ryan Gosling for this character.
I 100% agree. I felt that if you take all the characters that Ryan Gosling has ever played in his entire life, that is Ryland Grace. Like, I felt that. I felt that actually, like, knowing he was playing him on screen, felt that as I was reading, especially with the humor. As I was watching, I was just like, this is all his characters wrapped up into one. And I don't know, it just felt so good.
It did. It was just spot on. His like intonation of his dialogue, his delivery of the comedy, and like it was just all felt so natural and smooth, and I don't even know any other word. It just felt natural. It just
awesome.
felt
amazing. It was awesome. Amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Jazz hands.
So speaking of jazz hands, how well do you think the film portrayed Rocky, both visually and emotionally?
This was interesting. I really didn't. So we were very intentional to not watch any of the previews, to like not immerse ourselves in the film until we read the book and could go see it ourselves. And so,
which was difficult.
It was
because it was everywhere.
It was everywhere. And so when I'm listening to it and reading it, you know, you're obviously like, I'm projecting my own vision of how Andy Weir describes his character. And then on the film, you're seeing another person's interpretation of it. I actually thought it was at first I don't know what the right adjective is, but the way it was portrayed, it felt almost too puppety
Mm. On screen?
initially on screen, but that smoothed out over the course of the film. But again, I think like when you're first introduced to Rocky in the film, I'm fighting against the visual that I had in my head of him from reading it. And so like I needed to push that thought out of my head and then just like embrace what I'm seeing on screen. And so once I got past that, I thought it was great. I think they did a good job of not trying to make him look like us humans would want an alien to look like, to have a face or to have like some sort of representation of a
Agreeing.
face or anything like that. Like I thought they did a good job of making it very true to the way Andy Weir described him in the book. So we've talked in a couple of episodes where you have this, I don't remember what it's called, but you struggle to like
Aphantasia.
visualize
Yeah.
things with great clarity. And so what was your experience of that like?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't form an image in my own head because I don't have one to know. So when Andy Weir describes Rocky as a spider looking thing made of rocks, like that's kind of what I thought. I just was thinking of like a giant spider who's brown, honestly, like maybe scaly. That was my extent of what Rocky looked like. So for me, it actually came through beautifully on screen. Like it felt really believable, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's what he would look like." And especially, like, the fingers that he
Mm-hmm.
had and how it, like, kind of looked like a hand, but then he was, like, had mobility in them. I thought that was really cool. But I think what was the best is that, or it came through on screen, or was conveyed on screen, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is Rocky's intelligence, Rocky's humor, Rocky's warmth, like, that was very visible on screen, even though he looks like a rock. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't, like, specific to Rocky, but one thing I thought the film did well is in the book, he has, like, hamster tunnels
Mm-hmm.
that he creates, and then they don't do that on film, but they have him, like, rolling in a hamster ball. That was a lot of fun. Like, when he first enters the spaceship and he's
Oh
just,
yeah.
like, ping pong
Bouncing
like,
all over.
pinballing everywhere and, like, why your ship so messy?" Like, I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, that's total Rocky energy, and it's different, but it felt very cool." I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
I really like that. The relationship between Grace and Rocky develops gradually in the book. Did the film give that relationship enough time to feel meaningful?
I think so. I think as much as a film could. I mean,
Yeah.
I had some tears rolling down my cheeks at the end, so there was definitely some emotional connection there to the characters. I think the way that they sort of spliced the development of their communication and how that evolved. I liked the scene in the movie when they're choosing voices for the character for him.
Meryl Streep?
She
She
can
can
do
do
anything.
anything.
It's such a nice touch. So I thought it was very meaningful. I could see them risking their lives for one another when they realized that Rocky, especially, why he chose to like break out of his cages and save Grace when he was injured, and uh, so it was all kinds of feels and good.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it was condensed because it has to be, because it's
Totally.
2.5 hour film, which is, I mean, by all film standards, that's lengthy. But yeah, it is condensed, but I still felt like you're saying, like, had a tear running down my cheek, and I felt the emotional payoff when you get to the end of the story, and I think there's plenty of time to see and watch their friendship grow. It, to me, didn't feel as much of a ride as the book, but it was still heartwarming.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
The emotional arc of Grace, from a reluctant participant to someone willing to sacrifice everything, is central to the book. Did that transformation feel as impactful in the film?
I don't think as impactful, but it doesn't mean it wasn't impactful.
Yeah.
I think it's because of what you were just saying about like you only had so much time in a movie. You don't have as many pages to sort of develop all the other characters, or his, I shouldn't say develop the other characters, but after he remembers how he got there, you have more pages in the book where he's processing that information. I think you don't necessarily get that on film. Like you have that moment where the realization moment on film, but I don't think that lingers, or you don't sit with it as long as in the book. So I think for me, it had an impact, but as with most, the book had a stronger impact than it. So, um, yeah. Did you feel the same, or what did you think of the impact? I know you made a comment about it after we left the theater.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is a miss in the film, but this is probably, I don't wanna say one of my biggest criticism. This is definitely where I feel like the film just lacked compared to the book in a real way. But I don't think it was like, "Oh, it just totally missed this, it didn't get it." It just you can't get it at the depth that you do in the book. So, one scene that I thought of specifically is when he's with Strat and she's basically like, "You're going on this mission." And he's yelling at her, "You're murdering me, you're murdering me." Like, I was crying during that scene when I was reading it because he didn't want to die, but she knew he had to, and there's
Mm,
no one else to send. And so I think the author or Andy Weir has a lot of moments in the story where Strat and Grace discuss her authority. And so you actually see it in that moment, like really play out in a very high stakes way. And all of that, like, built like, all of those moments or all of that authority, like, built to that moment. So, that was honestly probably the hardest decision she's ever had to make, and while I think you get some of that in the film, like, there's no way it can create the emotional depth that the book does because we didn't see some of those other moments where she has to assert authority. Like there's the when she goes to court or when she
right,
just like goes to a jail and like literally takes someone from the jail who's serving I think like a life sentence, and it's not in this country, in some other country, and she's like, "You're with us now." Like she
right.
is asserts this tremendous the most like amount of authority that anyone has on the planet, and then she sends someone to die and he does not get a choice. So like that, you just it did not translate on film for me. But I think there was a moment that I don't want to say made up for this, but help, I think, for a viewer, if you haven't read the book, to get to like that emotion and helps move the film along without having some of the depth you get in the book. But when the other astronauts are like talking about giving up their lives, and Yao says, like, Grace just hasn't, like, found the reason for it. Like, I feel like that helps the arc of, like, that emotion and, like, how Ryland gets to where he needs to go because he doesn't have a reason yet. Like, he thought it
Yeah,
was, like, "I need to get back for my kids. I can't leave for them." But what he ends up discovering is that like he finds his friendship with Rocky, and that is worth sacrificing himself to save not just Rocky, but like Rocky's other planet, like a whole planet of other people that he's unwilling to let die. Yet he's not willing to leave Earth because he doesn't have emotional attachments to anyone on Earth. He does with Rocky.
yeah. Great point.
What did you think about how the film handled the ending? Did it land emotionally the same way the book did?
I think so. I mean, I had a few tears trickling down my face at the end. So yeah, I think it did. I mean, again, it's one of those like you can't quite get to the level of the book, but I thought the film definitely could stand on stood on its own with the ending. It's just like you understood why he made the decision that he did, and to see the visualization of him on Arid and the world that they built for him, and he gets to be a teacher still there. I thought that all hit pretty solid for me. Did you feel the same, or
I felt the same about that, about him being on Arid and like learning that and having his me burger, which is gross, but fine. And I said I wasn't going to say this about the other thing, but this is my biggest criticism in the film is that they showed the Beatles making it back to Earth, and they showed Strat watching the video diaries, and that they're starting to like work on the Talmiba,
Yeah.
because that's not what the story is about. Like, to me, the story is about Grace's journey from, zero to hero, finding something that is worth giving up his life for, and like the emotional connection between like the two species. Like, it's not about saving Earth. And I
Do you
felt,
feel? Go ahead.
and while we hear that on Arid, that like the sun's not dead yet, and that they have the Project Hail Mary ready, that if he wants to go back, he can. But that didn't feel like the point. And so Strat watching the videos and like learning that Grace is like fine or whatever, like, I don't know, I just felt that that's not what the story is. I didn't need to see that.
Got it. Did you feel like it was a distraction from Grace's storyline? Like it pulled
I
you
just
out of
felt
that
like
emotional
it was
moment?
added so that like, oh, Earth is saved, like everything's gonna be fine. And I don't think that's what the book is about.
Yeah,
This is
definitely not.
I'm acknowledging this as like a personal preference too. That I think
This whole podcast is a personal preference, by the way.
that's 100% accurate. I think that we've actually talked about this on the show, that a lot of people want their stories like neat with a little bow. And I like stories that don't always have happy endings. I like stories that are messy. I like stories that are complicated. And I don't think this story is about, saving humanity and making sure like the Earth is there. I think it's about something bigger than that, and I should say a different journey than that, because obviously
Mm,
billions of people dying is tragic, but acknowledging that. But that's not for me what the story is about. And that felt like a too little neat little bow on it, that those Beatles did make it back to Earth, that Strat did watch his video, that like they're all hunky dory. There's no hard feelings. Like, I didn't need that.
mm. I guess that's fair. I didn't have that reaction. I thought it
That's
was
because you're not
actually
a psycho.
that's true. You heard it here, folks. I didn't mind it. I actually kind of enjoyed it. Maybe, I mean, hearing you say that, sure, maybe it's a little like too neatly tied up, but anywho.
So, did you prefer the book or the film?
Oh man. Uh, I plead the fifth.
Oh no, he wants to say the film, but it's a book podcast.
I no, I mean
Your no answer
honestly,
is an answer.
yeah. They're just both so good. I don't know that I could pick. I mean, well, I guess maybe I'll say yes, you're right. I'm probably leaning towards the movie because I could absolutely see myself watching the movie a couple other times. I don't know that I would read the book twice. But that's
Mm.
also just kind of me. Like I'm more of a movie person
I'm
than
already
a
looking
book
forward to
person.
reading the book again.
I totally
Yeah.
believe that. So yeah, I mean that might be my answer, but I think it's laced through the lens of like I'm just more of a movie person than a book person, and I would absolutely watch this multiple times.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And I think it's because it is a good film, not just because you're more of a film person, because there's plenty of books this season that were like trash.
Yes. Yeah. And Ryan Gosling. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not awful.
I mean, I personally, I'm just like a book person. I'm going to leave the book with more than I'm going to leave the film with. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick the book because that's my preference. But I'm fully acknowledging that the movie is 100% worth seeing. Like, if you are not a book person, but you want to see a great film, like, this is definitely worth 2.5 hours of your time.
Yeah. And the $40 at a theater for 2 tickets and some popcorn.
No, that was just the popcorn and drinks. It was $40. That didn't even
Not
include our
the
tickets. Yeah.
Good
I think the
point.
tickets were like $12. They weren't too bad. I think that's kind of normal now. All right.
Oh, yay.
Any other final thoughts on the book? Maybe final thoughts on the film? Would you recommend one or both to our listeners?
Definitely recommend either one. Whatever your genre is. Maybe we talk about some women write in and be like, how do I get my husband to read books? I'm like, maybe go see this movie with him and then be like, hey, read the book too, or whatever. If you enjoyed the movie, you'll like the book. I don't know, something like that. It's cool to see someone else's interpretation of, especially if you read the book first, you build your own interpretation or like visualizations of what these things are, and then going to see someone else's interpretation, you're like, oh, that was pretty fucking cool. So anyway, those are my final thoughts. Do it. Do yourself a favor. Don't go, get left behind on Earth and freeze to death. Go see this movie. It's worth it.
I think that was really smart that this is probably a book that could get some more men into reading that maybe aren't. And I've said this before, like, I think audiobooks are a great way to, read something that is maybe less intimidating for some people, especially if a job where you can listen or you go to the gym or, take walks. Like, those are easy ways to fit in reading.
Yeah.
And the audiobook for this book specifically is really great.
It's
So
really good.
if you were trying to get your husband to read, this might be the one to do it.
Yep. It's good. And don't scare him off with sci-fi. Like, it's not a sci-fi like Star Trek sci-fi. It's just like,
Have you
this is
heard that when
good.
you use the term sci-fi, it like dilutes the genre, that we should say science fiction?
I
Have
did
you ever
not.
heard that? I
No.
I read that somewhere, and I don't know the reasoning behind it, but I just like wonder if that's
Hmm.
true.
That's interesting.
I have always looked at sci-fi as just like a shortened way to say science fiction. That's not
Totally.
cheapening it. That's what I heard.
Yeah. I mean, the whole television channel is
All
called,
right.
well, I mean, you read the logo, to me it reads as SIFI, but
Yeah.
SYFI, but it's sci-fi. So
Well,
no, I hadn't heard that.
science.
Right.
Anyway.
Science. Yeah, 550. Yeah. Hey.
Oh, SYFI.
Yeah, the
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
channel, they
Yes, is
when they
SY. You're right. Yep.
rebranded, they
Yep. Yeah.
shortened
Okay.
it
I'm with you. I'm
shorter. So
firing on all cylinders now.
good job.
Well, as mentioned, this is our last book this season, but we will have a season 4 recap 2 weeks from now as our final episode, and we're going to discuss all the books and films then. And from there, we will take a break, and then season 5 will come late this summer. And as a reminder, you can keep up with our episodes by following us on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. And as always, don't forget that a free way to support our show is by leaving us a review or rating us on Apple Podcasts. If you don't want to rate us, but you have a question or feedback on the show, you can email us at booksimakemyhusbandread@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
We would. And even go ahead, tell another book lover about the show. Maybe they'll find a book that we covered that they read and like, oh, I wonder what their thoughts are. And they can have a listen and be like, they were so smart and spot on. I should listen to more of their episodes. Maybe
Yes.
that'll happen.
We can hope.
One can hope.
Well, I guess that's it.
That is another one in the books and off to the stars.
Oh, good one. Well, who knows? Maybe this will be the one your husband reads.
You should. It's solid.
All right.
Well,
Bye, bye, bye.
amaze.
Fist my bone.